In episode 3, Logan announces to his advisors that he's planning on buying this media conglomerate called PGN. Jerry lets him know it might not be the best idea in their current situation to be acquiring an asset with Sandy and Stewie breathing down their neck, but Logan doesn't care. He then goes around the room, and it's obvious that a lot of people are hesitant to say that they like the idea, and they simply just lie to Logan's face. But Logan's line of thinking is if we buy PGN, we're simply too big for Stewie and Sandy to get. It's still a very risky acquisition, and he goes around the room and once again has everybody agree that they think that he should go after it. But once he leaves, that's when people start voicing their hesitation. Nobody's quite sure why they're buying it, and the whole reason they're buying it is because it's been Logan Roy's white whale. They wrote a couple of bad stories about him, their news isn't very kind to him. It's simply nothing more than vengeance. And Carl, the CFO, just can't understand why they're buying a $20 billion asset out of spiteful vengeance. And Kendall speaks up and says, no, you're right to voice this concern. I mean, the debt from this acquisition could end up being too tough to manage and it death spirals. And we all end up going down with the ship. And that's when Roman starts believing that maybe Kendall doesn't love this as much as he was telling their dad. But either way, Kendall gives the order to get it done for Logan. Logan then meets with Roman, Kendall, and Jamie Laird and explains that acquiring PGN is a takeover defense. He asks Jamie what's next, and Jamie says, well, the tough part's going to be contacting the family. We need a safe set of hands. And they did like one guy in your inner circle, but you fired him. It was Frank. And Logan still thinks that Frank is a backstabber, but now he needs Frank. So he tells Kendall, invite him to the retreat in Hungary that he's having for all of his upper management folks. He once again reiterates that there can be no leaks. But he gets interrupted by Carolina, who shows him a video that Connor is planning on putting out on Instagram that's going to announce his presidency, but also says how he plans on paying no taxes whatsoever, and begs the police and the federal government to, quote, come and get me. And when Roman gets home, Tabitha is actually watching that video, laughing about it because it just looks so stupid. He wouldn't survive 1 second in jail. Roman then asks, hey, you still have that friend Naomi Pierce, right? And she is the Pierce P in PGN. He explains to Tabitha how their dad is trying to buy PGN, and Roman wants to use Tabitha as an in with the family to possibly broker a deal. And this would really work for him because it would be like the death nail for Kendall. Now, everybody's planning on taking that trip to Hungary, but two people that will be noticeably absent from that trip are Connor and Shiv. And when Tom gets home and starts to pack for it, Shiv has just gotten off the phone with her dad, and she has to now go over to Connor's house and try to talk some sense into him by not releasing the video. And she wants to talk about the Pierce deal with Tom, but she's not even supposed to know that. She found out via Jerry. And she's trying to get all the details from Tom, who was in the meeting, and Tom thinks it could be a great idea, but Shiv thinks it's terrible. Explaining that the blowback alone would be awful. I mean, could you imagine the Logan Roy owning all of the news? Where would she actually get her news? Jerry thinks Logan has gone mad, and Shiv agrees with her. She further explains that we're talking about a $20 billion acquisition that either breaks the company or takes 20 years to integrate. And she's saying all of this because she wants Tom to talk to their dad on this retreat. Try to talk him out of buying Pierce. But Tom doesn't want to do that. He feels like she's using him as a puppet. But Tom packs his bags and heads off to Hungary with all the rest of the upper management, including Greg, by the way, who spent the morning talking to the woman who's going to write a biography about Logan Roy. And he was just meeting with her to vet her, but he ended up saying something. He thought it was off the record. She thought it was on it. Now he's panicking. And he ended the meeting right there. And on the plane ride over to Hungary, Carolina has some bad news about the biography. Somebody has talked. And Logan is pissed off because he told Carolina and Jerry to stop it. But Jerry says, I can't exactly stop the publication of a book. It's good to come out. And Logan says, well, anybody who speaks to her is dead to me. Logan then orders a guy named Sam to just scan emails, scan phone records, and find out who the inside mole is that was talking to this biographer. And when Greg finds out about Sam, he now has the fear of God in him. But everybody arrives in Hungary, including Frank, and Frank is very suspicious, but Logan acts like he didn't just fire him a few months ago. He gives him a watch as a gift because he needs Frank. Now, while everybody's getting settled in Turkey, Shiv heads over to Connor's house to try to talk some sense into him. And she arrives there to find that he's hired some pretty heavy hitters for his political campaign. And Shiv's trying to call in a favor to him to try to get him to not release his video because it's a bad look for him and it's a really bad look for the family. And he decides to make Shiv a counter proposal, offering her a job on his campaign. But she has no interest in that whatsoever and tries to get the topic back on the video, telling him that that video is batshit insane. He agrees to think about it, and with Connor contemplating, Shiv and Willow decide to head off to a bar because Willow is meeting with a bunch of her actors for her her Broadway play. And Shiv figures that if she can't get through to Connor, maybe she can get through to Willow that this isn't a good idea to release this video. Willow tells her that they both support each other's dreams. Hers is Broadway, his is the White House. But Shiv says that the guys that he hired will suck $10 million out of him before he even notices. And her Broadway play is not going to cost $10 million. And like Connor, she says, I'll think about it. And right after she says that, one of the actors in the play walks by, and Shiv starts eye-fucking the shit out of him. But as she's doing so, she's texting Tom trying to get an update on if he's talked to her dad or not. But he hasn't, because they're not hunting yet, and it's still a really touchy subject for him. But Logan isn't even on Tom's mind right now, because Tom is busy finding out from Greg that Greg was possibly the one who talked to the journalist. Greg thinks Tom and him are close and that they've been through a lot so he can keep a secret. And Tom tells Greg, dude, you gotta put this in the vault. I mean, I'll keep your secret, but Logan will literally kill you. And the whole reason why Greg came to Tom was because he wants to find out just how thorough this Sam guy is and if he can actually figure out that it was Greg who talked. Now, Tom soon finds out that Shiv is not the only one, though, who wants him to talk to Logan. Because that night, Jerry and Carl come to him and they try to coerce him into bringing up to Logan that the Pierce deal isn't a good one. And no one thinks that this is a good move, but everybody is scared shitless to actually be the one to bring it to Logan. And before Tom can even talk to him about it, Logan finds out from Jamie that somebody in the Pierce family found out that Logan wanted to buy them and they're skittish now. And he advises him to back off. And somehow that news leaked out. And with this leak and the biography leak, Logan enters the dining room in a really bad mood. And shortly after arriving in the dining room, Tom does find Logan and tells him that he is planning on making a speech because there are some people that don't think the Pierce deal is good, but Tom isn't one of them. He reassures Logan of that over and over again. Before Tom can even make that speech, though, Logan turns all of his hatred towards Frank. And Frank is trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And Logan stands up and announces that somebody has talked to this biographer and somebody has leaked the Pierce deal. And he simply wants to know who is actually behind him on this. He asks who talked to the biographer and no one's owning up to it. And it's worth mentioning that earlier in the day, Kendall had gone to Roman saying that he heard from the biographer and he was thinking about talking and he was trying to gauge Roman's interest in that. And Roman, of course, had heard from the biographer as well and says, well, if you talk, then I have to talk because I have to clean up your bullshit. Logan then asks who likes the Pierce deal, and they're all lying to him. As Logan goes around the room interrogating everybody, he comes to Roman, and Roman rats out Kendall for talking to the biographer, but Kendall reveals that he was only doing that to sniff out Roman. Kendall then asks Roman, why don't you tell everybody about the mystery call that you took? But Roman isn't inclined to do that, and he immediately starts deflecting. And Logan is really going above and beyond to humiliate people. He's got Tom, Greg, Carl on their knees, and he's thrown 2 sausages at him, telling them that whoever doesn't get a sausage is the rat. I mean, just really humiliating stuff. And while Tom is getting humiliated, Shiv has gone home with that actor and ends up fucking him. She tells him how she's in an open relationship and classified Tom as an employee. And that employee is oinking like a pig for a sausage in front of her dad. And while Tom is oinking like a pig, Roman is filming the whole thing laughing about it. And Kendall grabs the phone because he wants to find out exactly who Roman was talking to. And of course, Roman is freaking out because he's about to get caught. And Kendall announces to the room that it was Roman who was the one that leaked the deal to Pierce. Roman pleads his case to Logan, saying that he was actually trying to do him a favor by brokering the deal. It would be a nice surprise. But Logan just looks at him and says, "You're a moron." Logan then shouts to the room that he's surrounded by snakes and morons. And once again, who backs me on Pierce? But Kendall tells him, Dad, nobody does. But even though everybody is against this deal, Logan announces that he's still going to go for it and he's going to get it. The next morning at breakfast, Logan apologizes to Frank and really everybody else for the way he acted. And he's got Frank and Kendall at his table. And you find out that Frank has been offered his old job back and he's considering taking it, although he doesn't really know why. Carolina comes up to him and tells him that she found out who was the one who spoke to the biographer. It was a guy named Mo. Now, initially, Logan blows up until he finds out that Mo died last night. And Logan tells her, send Sam over to his house to crack his servers. I want to know what he was telling the biographer. Now, one person noticeably absent from breakfast is Roman. And Jerry heads up to try to see how he's doing, and he's just dejected and says, how do I get my dad to respect me? And Jerry tells him, if you really want to know, do the management training. Start at the ground floor. The group flies out that day, and the decision to bring back Frank is already paying dividends as he's made contact with Pierce's CEO, and he's able to facilitate a meeting between the CEO and Logan. When Tom gets back that night, he tells Shiv what happened and voices his displeasure in being used like a puppet to try to get her way when he didn't agree to it in the first place. And after Shiv and Tom make up, Shiv gets a phone call from Logan, and Logan says, I'm sorry I missed your call. I was dealing with the snakes and the insurgents. And she says, oh, well, not me, Dad, which is a complete lie because she sent Tom to do her bidding. And Logan tells her, let's set a date to bring you in. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.